Hey guys, welcome back to The Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story. My friend in Seoul studies fashion design. She regularly shares her design sketches with me, and they're all incredible work. I'll admit, I don't know much about fashion myself. Her specialty is designing luxury accessories, particularly handbags. She recently told me about how she dealt with one of the most entitled students she's ever encountered on campus. Cast, Lily, our protagonist. Madison, the antagonist doctor. Park, the course instructor. Story: Lily and Madison started off as good friends in early 2024. They shared similar interests and quickly became close. During their first semester, Lily showed Madison her detailed handbag designs. Madison was amazed by the level of detail. Every stitch line, pattern, and measurement was precisely drawn. "These are incredible!" Madison had exclaimed, flipping through Lily's sketchbook. "How do you make them look so professional?" Dr. Park was equally impressed with Lily's work. "This is exactly the kind of attention to detail we look for," he told her during their first major project review. Lily earned top marks, while Madison struggled. After that, Madison basically became Lily's shadow. "Can you help me improve my technique?" she'd ask constantly. "I really want to do well in this class." Lily agreed to help, but Madison turned out to be the worst student possible. Her behavior included constantly checking her phone during their study sessions, "Sorry I'm late," becoming her catchphrase, always 30-plus minutes behind, never once saying thank you, always forgetting her wallet when it was time to pay for coffee. "Ugh, this is so hard," every 5 minutes while barely trying. After a week of this, Lily had enough. "I think you need to figure out your own study strategy," she told Madison firmly. When midterm presentations came around in March, Lily was stunned to see Madison presenting one of her designs. Fortunately, Lily had multiple designs ready, so there wasn't any direct conflict. After class, she immediately went to Dr. Park's office. "I saw what happened," Dr. Park said before Lily could speak. "But my hands are tied. Madison's father is one of our major donors." He lowered his voice. "He's basically threatened my job if I don't give her top grades." The revenge. Dr. Park helped Lily craft a plan. He announced their final would be another presentation, this time with 3 designs. "Industry professionals will be judging," he told the class. "The department head and board members will attend as well." Lily had a separate sketchbook filled with designs from famous brands like Michael Kors and Coach, not for copying, just for inspiration. She started being friendly with Madison again, strategically leaving this sketchbook visible during their meetings. Meanwhile, she worked on her original designs in secret. On presentation day in late May, Lily and Dr. Park exchanged knowing looks. Lily presented first, earning enthusiastic praise. Madison went last, showing 3 designs she'd stolen directly from major brands. The judge's response was immediate. "Miss Madison," the first judge leaned forward, "you're claiming these are your original designs?" "Yes, absolutely," Madison replied confidently. "And you're willing to state, for the record, that you didn't copy these from anywhere?" "Of course not. They're completely original." "Interesting," the judge said slowly, "because these exact designs are currently being sold by 3 different luxury brands." Madison's face went pale. "What? No, Did you really think," another judge cut in, "that industry professionals wouldn't recognize these designs? This is blatant plagiarism." "But they're not my designs!" Madison pointed at Lily. "They're hers! She showed them to me." The third judge turned to Lily. "Is this true?" "I do have sketches of those designs," Lily admitted calmly, "but I use them as reference material for inspiration. I'd never present them as my own work." "That was evident from your presentation," the judge nodded. "Miss Madison, this is a serious violation of academic integrity." Madison's father erupted, shouting at Dr. Park right there in the presentation hall. "You promised she would pass. We had a deal." That outburst sealed their fate. Madison was expelled, her father was forced to resign from the board, and the school appointed a new, more ethical board member to replace him. "You set me up," Madison tried to claim later, but nobody was listening. The evidence was too clear, and her father's outburst had revealed everything. The consequences were swift. Madison was expelled, and her father's influence over the school ended permanently. The next one is an entitled people's story. "I inherited my grandfather's 12-acre orchard property when he passed away 5 years ago. It's been in our family for 3 generations, with beautiful apple and pear trees that have produced fruit for over 50 years. The property sits between 2 suburban neighborhoods, Oak Ridge Hills to the north and Maple Grove to the south. Both are managed by the same homeowners association. I live in a small house on the western edge of the orchard. While I have a regular day job as an IT consultant, I maintain the orchard as a hobby and sell the fruit at local farmers markets. It's not hugely profitable, but it keeps my grandfather's legacy alive and provides fresh produce to the community. The trouble started last summer when the Homeowners Association hired a new management company. The new Homeowners Association president, Karen Thompson, decided she wanted to modernize the neighborhoods and increase property values. One of her brilliant ideas was to build a connecting road between the two neighborhoods through my orchard, creating a shortcut that would save residents about 5 minutes of driving time. One Monday morning in July, I woke up to the sound of heavy machinery. I looked out my window to see construction crews cutting down my trees and clearing a path through the middle of my orchard. I immediately ran outside in my pajamas. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I yelled at the construction foreman. He pulled out some papers. "We're building a connecting road here. Got all the permits right here from the Homeowners Association." I grabbed the papers and quickly scanned them. "These are Homeowners Association permits, but this is my private property. You can't just build a road through it." "Look, buddy, I just do what I'm told. Take it up with the Homeowners Association." He shrugged. I called the police immediately. When they arrived, I showed them my property deed and documentation. The officers ordered the construction to stop, but by then they had already cut down 30 of my trees and cleared a 20-foot wide path about 100 yards long. I tried calling Karen, the Homeowners Association president, but she wouldn't take my calls. Finally, I drove to her office and demanded to speak with her. Her secretary tried to turn me away, but I refused to leave. Karen eventually emerged from her office looking annoyed. "What seems to be the problem, Mr. Roberts?" "The problem? You're illegally destroying my property. Those construction crews are trespassing and damaging my orchard." She gave me a condescending smile. "The Homeowners Association Board has approved this project. The new road will benefit all residents by providing convenient access between neighborhoods." "I don't care what the board approved. That's my private property. You can't just build roads through it without my permission." "Actually, we can. There's an easement clause in the original property documents from when these neighborhoods were developed," she said smugly. I knew this was complete BS. I had reviewed all the property documents with my lawyer after inheriting the place. "There is no such easement. Show it to me." "Our legal team has confirmed it. If you have concerns, you can take it up with them." She dismissed me with a wave of her hand. I went straight to my lawyer's office. He confirmed what I already knew. There was absolutely no easement allowing the Homeowners Association to build roads through my property. He immediately filed for an emergency injunction to stop any further construction. But Karen and the Homeowners Association weren't backing down. They filed a countersuit claiming they had implied easement rights based on historical use patterns. Apparently, because some residents occasionally walked through my orchard as a shortcut, that meant they could build a road there. While the legal battle began, I had to prevent further damage to my property. I invested in security cameras and no trespassing signs. I also bought several large concrete barriers and had them placed at both ends of their partially built dirt road. This sent Karen into a rage. She started sending me daily violation notices claiming my barriers were against Homeowners Association regulations, even though I wasn't even part of the Homeowners Association. The citations came with escalating fines, eventually totaling over $10,000. The Homeowners Association's lawyer sent threatening letters demanding I remove the barriers immediately, but my lawyer advised me to stand firm. I had every right to block access to my private property. Karen then tried a different approach. She started spreading rumors in the community that I was an anti-social troublemaker who was selfishly preventing important neighborhood improvements. Some residents began giving me nasty looks at the local grocery store. Someone even left dog poop on my front porch. But I wasn't about to let them bully me into submission. My grandfather had spent decades cultivating this orchard. Those trees weren't just a source of fruit, they were a living legacy that I had promised to protect. The case went to court in September. The Homeowners Association's lawyer tried to argue that the road project was for the greater good of the community, and that my orchard was underutilized land that could better serve residents as a transportation corridor. My lawyer systematically demolished their arguments. He presented clear property records showing I had full ownership with no easements. He brought in an arborist who testified about the value of the mature fruit trees they had destroyed. Some were worth thousands of dollars each. He even had satellite photos showing how the Homeowners Association had deliberately targeted my property instead of other possible road routes that would have only impacted Homeowners Association-owned land. The judge was not impressed with the Homeowners Association's actions. In his ruling, he stated, "This appears to be a clear case of a homeowners association vastly overstepping its authority and willfully damaging private property for its own convenience. The court finds in favor of the plaintiff." The judge ordered the Homeowners Association to pay $175,000 in damages for the destroyed trees, remove all construction materials and restore the land, pay my legal fees over $50,000, cease issuing any citations or fines against my property, post a public retraction of their claims about easement rights. Karen looked like she had swallowed a lemon when the verdict was read, but it was about to get worse for her. During the legal proceedings, several interesting documents came to light through discovery. Emails between Karen and the construction company showed she had deliberately fast-tracked the project over summer vacation when many board members were away. She had also ignored multiple warnings from their own lawyer about the questionable legality of building on private property. The Homeowners Association board was furious when they learned the full story. Not only had Karen's actions cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars, but she had acted without proper authorization. At the next board meeting, they voted unanimously to remove her as president and launch an audit of all her decisions. But the story doesn't end there. Remember those violation notices and fines she had been sending me? Turns out she had been doing the same thing to dozens of other homeowners, issuing bogus citations for imaginary violations and pocketing some of the fine money. The audit uncovered over $100,000 in misappropriated funds. Karen was charged with embezzlement and fraud. She ended up accepting a plea deal, 18 months probation and full restitution of the stolen money. She also had to sell her house and move away from the neighborhood. Last I heard, she was living in an apartment in the next county. The new Homeowners Association board was much more reasonable. They formally apologized for Karen's actions and worked with me to properly restore the damaged section of my orchard. They even offered to pay for new saplings to replace the destroyed trees, though it will take years for them to mature. The whole experience brought some unexpected benefits. Several of my neighbors who had initially believed Karen's lies came by to apologize. Many hadn't even known about the orchard before, but now they became regular customers at my fruit stand. One of them, Maria, was particularly interested in the orchard's history. She started volunteering to help me maintain the trees on weekends. We discovered we had a lot in common and eventually started dating. 2 years later, we got married under the oldest apple tree in the orchard, the same spot where my grandparents had their wedding photos taken 60 years ago. The Homeowners Association actually became a positive presence in the community. The new board focused on real improvements like upgrading the playground and organizing neighborhood events. They even started an annual harvest festival in partnership with my orchard where local families can come pick apples and enjoy fresh cider. They did eventually build their connecting road, but they did it properly this time, purchasing a strip of undeveloped land from a willing seller and following all legal procedures. It actually worked out better than their original plan, as the new route included space for a walking trail and bike path. As for me, I expanded the orchard business. With Maria's help, we started offering educational tours for school groups and teaching canning classes. The settlement money from the Homeowners Association allowed us to build a proper farm stand and small event space for community gatherings. Last month, our first child was born, a daughter we named Rose, after my grandfather's favorite variety of pears. As I walk through the orchard with her, showing her the trees that have sustained our family for generations, I'm grateful that I stood up to Karen and the Homeowners Association's illegal actions. This land isn't just property, it's a living piece of history that I can now pass on to the next generation. The whole experience taught me valuable lessons about standing up for what's right, even when facing powerful opposition. It also showed me that sometimes the worst situations can lead to unexpected blessings. Those 30 destroyed trees led to positive changes in the community, a wonderful marriage, and a stronger appreciation for my family's legacy. Every spring when the trees bloom, I think about my grandfather and how proud he would be to see his orchard not just surviving, but thriving. The property has become more than just a fruit farm. It's a gathering place for the community, a classroom for children learning about nature, and a reminder that with determination and principle, justice can prevail over greed and entitlement. Maria and I are already planning to expand the educational programs next year. We're partnering with local schools to teach students about sustainable agriculture and the importance of preserving green spaces in suburban areas. The irony isn't lost on me that Karen's attempt to pave over part of the orchard actually led to more people understanding and appreciating its value. The concrete barriers that caused so much controversy, we turned them into planters for climbing vines and flowers. They now mark the entrance to our nature trail, a living symbol of how obstacles can be transformed into something beautiful with the right perspective. Looking back, I'm actually thankful for the whole ordeal. It forced me to take a more active role in managing and developing the orchard rather than just maintaining the status quo. What started as a fight to protect my property ended up creating something even better than what existed before. a thriving business, a stronger community, and a family legacy that will continue for generations to come. Update 2 years later. A lot has happened since my last post, and I wanted to share some important developments that really brought this whole saga full circle. Remember Karen, the former Homeowners Association president who tried to build that illegal road through my orchard? Well, she didn't stay quiet for long. About 6 months ago, she tried to sue me again, this time for defamation because the story of her embezzlement had made the local news and ruined her life. She claimed she couldn't find a job because of her tarnished reputation. My lawyer shut that down fast. We had all the court records and documentation from the original case, plus her guilty plea for embezzlement. The judge dismissed her lawsuit in under 15 minutes and ordered her to pay my legal fees. Again. But here's where it gets interesting. During the proceedings, we discovered she had been trying to start a consulting business, advising homeowners associations in other counties. She was actually using her experience with our homeowners association as a credential, claiming she had successfully managed major infrastructure projects. Thankfully, our lawyer sent cease and desist letters to all the homeowners associations she had contacted, along with copies of the court decisions showing what really happened. The fallout from Karen's actions led to some significant changes in state law. Several other communities had experienced similar issues with homeowners associations overstepping their authority. Our case became a key example in pushing through new legislation that requires homeowners associations to have clear documentation of property rights before starting any construction projects. They also have to notify all affected property owners and get written consent. The State Attorney General's office contacted me a few months ago. They were building a case against the construction company that had initially started destroying my orchard. Turns out they had a pattern of starting work without proper permits, assuming they could just pay fines if they got caught. They had damaged protected wetlands in 3 other counties. I testified at their hearing, and the company ended up losing their state contractor's license. They also had to pay substantial fines and restitution to other property owners they had damaged. The company owner tried to blame it all on miscommunication with their clients, but the evidence showed they knew exactly what they were doing. As for my orchard, it's doing better than ever. Those replacement trees the Homeowners Association paid for are growing well, and we actually expanded our operation. Remember that strip of land where they eventually built their proper connecting road? The owner of the adjacent property was so impressed with how we handled the Homeowners Association situation that he offered to sell us his 5 acres at below market value. He said he'd rather see it stay as green space than get developed. Maria and I took out a small business loan and bought the land. We've planted new varieties of fruit trees and started a small vineyard. The farm stand has become a real community hub, and we're even hosting weddings and events in the new space we built. The current Homeowners Association Board has become one of our biggest supporters. They recently changed their bylaws to protect green spaces and local agriculture. Any future development projects have to include environmental impact studies and community input. They also created a committee specifically focused on maintaining good relationships with neighboring property owners. Last month, I got an unexpected letter from one of the construction workers who had been involved in cutting down our trees. He apologized and explained that he had quit his job that same day because he felt so bad about destroying the orchard. He's now running his own landscaping business focused on preserving and protecting mature trees. He even offered to do some free maintenance work for us as a way to make amends. The whole experience has made me realize how important it is to stand up against bullies and corruption, even when it seems like you're fighting alone. What started as a simple property dispute ended up exposing broader issues and leading to positive changes that benefit the whole community. Rose is walking now, and she loves helping us in the orchard, well, as much as a toddler can help. When she gets older, I'll tell her the story of how we fought to protect these trees. I want her to understand that sometimes you have to fight for what's right, even when it would be easier to give in. We're expecting our second child in a few months. Maria wants to name him Oliver, after my grandfather who started this orchard. It feels right, keeping the family connection strong. The legal battle with Karen and the Homeowners Association could have broken us, but instead it made everything stronger. Our business, our community relationships, and our commitment to preserving this land for future generations. Sometimes I walk through the orchard at sunset, looking at the mix of old and new trees, and I know we did the right thing. As for Karen, last I heard, she moved out of state. Sometimes people ask if I'm still angry about what she did, but honestly, I just feel sorry for her. She tried to destroy something beautiful for her own selfish reasons, and in the end, she only destroyed herself. Meanwhile, the orchard continues to grow and thrive, just like it has for 3 generations. The concrete barriers that once blocked her illegal road are now covered in flowering vines, marking the entrance to our nature trail. They stand as a reminder that sometimes the best revenge is simply succeeding and thriving despite someone's attempts to tear you down. The next one is a malicious compliances story. I work at a hotel. I'm on the graveyard shift and we have a continental breakfast from 6-9 and my shift ends at 7, so I'm in charge of setting up the breakfast. It's not a big deal. It's a smallish hotel and a small breakfast, but we do have waffles and a couple of waffle makers. Basically, guests come in, they get their batter out of a dispenser and make their waffles so they're fresh and hot. We have 2 seasons where I live, winter and construction season, and we get work crews that stay at the hotel on the boss's dime and then go out for whatever job they're working on. And we very frequently get this one crew of guys. They're great guys, they're polite, and they don't leave the breakfast room a mess, but their shifts start super early in the morning. We also get hunters who are in and out before 6, so I usually have everything set up by 5:30 for them. I say usually because I'm only human, sometimes I'm running late, it happens, but I'm never more than 5 minutes after 6. The workers and the hunters are super chill about it, they get it, and don't complain about waiting a couple of extra minutes. I also feel the need to add that the foreman is amongst them, so he's eating when they are. So one day I'm running a little late, I got caught up with what I was doing and kinda lost track of time, so I was rushing to get everything set up while the guys are patiently waiting in the lobby. In enters Karen, who sees the time, sees the breakfast isn't ready, and decides to yell at me for it, saying that the sign says breakfast is from 6-9 and should be started exactly at 6. I tried to keep working while talking to her so I could get the breakfast ready, but she decided that was rude, so I had to stop what I was doing and stand there with her yelling at me until she ran out of breath and I could finish setting up. Karen complains to the manager. I get a verbal warning that I have to have breakfast open by 6 as I was about 15 minutes behind because Karen was yelling at me when I would have been less than 4 if she'd let me ducking finish. Well, Karen was a stayover, and she was in the next day before 6. The manager refunded part of her stay under guest satisfaction, and I think she was hoping to find me doing something wrong so she could get another refund. But I was on my game and had everything set up by 5:30 like usual. She came in before the workers and saw me sitting at the front desk and sneered about me being lazy when I should be setting up breakfast. I told her the breakfast was already ready to go as the construction workers are entering, but I stand and walk over to block the doorway to the breakfast room and told them that I couldn't let them in because the manager said I had to start the breakfast at exactly 6 o'clock, so I couldn't let them back until then. And as I'm saying this, I'm looking directly at Karen. Slowly heads turn and Karen goes red and mutters something about coming back later and leaves, so I let the guys back. They said it was funny, and like I said, the workers have had to wait a little after 6 before with no problem, and the foreman was there. To be clear, if I thought this stunt was going to cost them their breakfast, I never would have done it, but I knew that wasn't going to be a problem. I didn't see Karen again, so either she didn't come back or she returned after I left, but either way I didn't hear another word from the manager about it. You want your breakfast at 6? You're gonna get your breakfast at 6. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.